Hi everybody, it's Leo with Family Heritage Living. Today we're going to be making sour cream Christmas cookies, and these are the absolute best cookies ever. They are moist and wonderful with a buttercream frosting on top. Years ago, my husband's uncle's wife made these for the first, and I had them for the first time, and ever since then I make them every year at least once, and everyone that I have ever shared this recipe with or has ever tasted the cookie has had to have the recipe, and they make them yearly too. So this year we wanted to share it with you folks, and the kids are going to help me do this because we are actually going to start decorating for Christmas tonight, and this is part of the festivity. Now, one note here, we do sugar cookies, Christmas sugar cookies, but we do not use food coloring. We used to use sprinkles, and occasionally I will buy an organic sprinkle when I see them, but I did not see them this year, so we're just going to go without. So of course, if you use the food colorings in your frosting, you can make them very decorative and very festive. But for us, this works perfectly, and we feel good about eating them, because otherwise, I mean, I realize there's natural food coloring, but they just don't have the zing for us, and it's just not really worth the additional cost at times. So feel free though, and I hope you can still see the beauty of the cookie, even though it's not going to have all the festive colors. All right, so we are making a double batch, which makes a really big amount of cookies. So you can decrease this. A normal recipe calls for half of everything that I'm putting in, but I will leave it up to you. We start off with 2 cups of butter. Okay, 4 cups sugar. And you cream that, of course. 4 eggs. Okay, so we need just a pinch of salt. 2 tablespoons of baking powder. And just stir that into your batter. All right, then we need 4 cups sour cream. And that's 2 cups is a container, so we'll use 2 containers.
Ada sabaw.
All right, one of the secrets to these cookies is that you don't overdo with the flour. The recipe calls for 10 to 12 cups. That's a pretty wide variation, but I think what it is allowing for is the moisture in your environment, how soft your butter is. If you've melted it, then it's obviously liquid, or how liquidy your sour cream is. So the primary thing you're looking for is something that you can work with, knowing when you roll it out that it's going to feel too sticky. And the reason why I say that is because you are going to refrigerate these for several hours before you try to make them, because otherwise you'll be putting a lot more flour in. Not that they won't turn out, not that they won't be good, but they just won't be as good. Okay, for this next step, instead of using the golden white that I always say we love so much, we do use an all-purpose white flour, and that's because it does really change the texture of these cookies, and since these cookies are sinful to begin with, we might as well just go all the way, right? And after you chill it, as you work with it, you're obviously going to flour your surface, and you will add a little flour to work with the dough. So you will end up probably with the full amount of flour. See, it's still, as far as like if you were making a biscuit dough, you'd say, wow, that's really still sticky, but that's really the texture you're looking for in this cookie. All right, now it leads us to the part that's so painful for the children, putting it in the ice box. I typically try to do this lots of times when I make these at night, so they're ready in the morning, because they should be chilled for a good 6-8 hours. But if we do it during the day, if I can get them to let me let it chill for 3 or 4 hours, I'm doing really good.
Mama, how long should we let the cookies freeze?
A couple hours at least today before we try a batch.
How long is what's a couple?
Couple hours for you? It'll be a really long time.
But how long is it?
2.
Oh.
I apologize in advance for some of the lighting in this. tried to get the stuff done before the sun went down, but we just couldn't get it all done, and the kids are not waiting until tomorrow to bake some of these. So we have a couple of solar lights. Hopefully that will help. Other than that, it's just the way that kerosene lighting is hard to see on these cameras. And the funny thing is when you're in the light, it's not as hard to see when you're actually there. The camera just doesn't pick up stuff very well in this light. So hopefully it won't hinder the video. Okay, so see how nice and firm and chilled this dough is. Well, while making it easier to work with, it makes it harder to work with. Just make sure that your dough is covered nicely in flour or it'll stick to your board. I like ours, or we like ours, a little bit thicker, probably than most people would a Christmas cookie. They almost want a biscuit with frosting on it. Obviously not quite as a biscuit, but that's what it always reminds me of. I guess think of a tea biscuit. You can roll them super thin. Or you can roll them thick. The other thing with these cookies is you do not want to overcook them. We like ours where they're slightly brown on bottom. You can take them out a little sooner so that they're just a cream color on the top and the bottom. But sometimes they're not, they're still a little too moist if you don't cook them just a little bit further. Notice that none of them on the sides are brown, but if you flip one over, it's a little browner. And even like that color is okay, but then they kind of lose the texture that you're after.